My name is Douglas Ziman and I will be racing 70.3 Staffordshire on June 11th. What is a 70.3? It's also called a half Ironman. And essentially a half Ironman is a 1.2 mile swim, a 56 mile bike ride, and a 13.1 mile run or a half marathon. Back to back, always in that order. I'm an MBA student, Masters in Business Administration at University of Virginia. I'm also pursuing a Masters in Data Science. This was a place that I went and did my undergraduate as well, but I came back because I love being in this part of the world. It's a beautiful part of the world. And I decided that while I was here, I would train for half Ironman races more consistently. I was born in the UK, northeast of England, near Darlington, and I moved to the States actually when I was 9. My parents had moved here for work, and we've stayed ever since. Here today at the pool to do swim. It's Sunday, so typically on a Sunday I'm doing a workout in the morning and a workout in the afternoon. Swimming is probably my weakest of the three sports. I'm not a bad swimmer, but compared to the guys I'm racing against, I'm definitely going to lose time in the swim. So I get my swim workouts, my coach sends everything to me using an app called Training Peaks. So basically what happens is I get the workouts on the phone, then I have to execute them. My watch records everything for me, all the speed, all the pace, heart rate, the whole 9 yards. And then uploads it all to the app, and then she can come in and actually see how I performed in that workout. I started out, really my first athletic endeavors were bike riding with my dad. I grew up in Houston, so riding around there, mostly charity rides, long rides, big groups, no racing. I wasn't very good at all. I kind of didn't have a concept of what it took to really train for competitive endurance racing. My last year of university, I had an agreement with my best friend that we were going to try racing a half Ironman, and that was going to be kind of our crowning moment of university. So I trained for that through 2018 and 2019, raced in May of 2019, and really enjoyed it and decided that this was something I wanted to keep doing. Of course, COVID got in the way of that a bit. I wasn't able to race for a couple of years, but stayed fit. I moved to Denver, Colorado, rode my bike in the mountains every weekend, started to kind of build some of that endurance. And then when I got into business school, the goal was, okay, I'm gonna get a coach and I'm going to try to really learn how to race properly and develop that fitness. So since then, I've done 4 half Ironman races. I've got 2 more this summer, Staffordshire and then Finland afterwards. And that'll kind of culminate this cycle for me. Staffordshire runs deep in my family history. My grandparents, Nana and Grandad, were born in Staffordshire, raised there, met dancing at the local dance hall in Mere, bought a house in Mere Heath and lived there their whole lives. That's where my mum was born, where she grew up, she went to school. It was where I remember going to visit them every year, their little house, walking on the common with Grandad. And sport in Staffordshire as well. Grandad was a huge sportsman. He played football for many years, on all kinds of teams. Was captain of at least a couple and used to come home apparently with trophies every weekend, my mum said. Grandad, even on one occasion, I believe, got an offer to play, or at least to try out for Stoke City. He decided not to since there's a lot of travel. So he went and worked with my grandmother, with Nana, in the potteries. One day in 2019 in the spring, Grandad very suddenly died of a heart attack. came as a shock to all of us. And I know that it was a very difficult time for us, especially for Nana, who never really recovered. A few years later, during the pandemic, she also passed away. I didn't get to say goodbye really to either of them. Granddad because it was sudden, and Nana because we were trapped in the US. We couldn't really make it to the UK. And especially for Nana, we had to say our goodbyes over Zoom, as did so many families in the UK. When they passed away, they left me, as their only grandson, a portion of what they'd put aside, and I'm very grateful to them for that. I had to think about kind of the way that I wanted to remember them with that money. To me, there was no better way to remember, especially Granddad, than to pursue the sport that I care about, the sport of triathlon. It's a very expensive sport, and I really wouldn't have been able to pursue it in the way that I have without his support. When I hired my coach, I told her that the goal was, I'm going to go back to England, I'm going to go to Staffordshire, and I'm going to race this race for them, for my grandparents, around the roads that they knew so well. So this is my apartment. I did 3,000 yards in the pool this morning. I've got about another hour and a half on the bike to do today. I'll do a little bit of core and stuff in the evening. This is where I do a lot of my indoor training. This is my rocket ship. This is my pride and joy. It's all carbon fiber. It's got electronic shifting, which is kind of cool, so you can hear that. Right now, I've got it on my indoor trainer. So this is basically set up to allow me to do training inside. So it'll moderate resistance for me. I will tell it, make me do this many watts, 230 watts for 4 minutes. And there's no cheating. I've got to do that or else the pedals will stop turning. So it's going to moderate all the resistance for me. It's a really effective way of making sure I'm working exactly how hard I want to work for exactly however long that I want to work. So this is going to be an hour and a half. Will be pretty intense. I mean, this is one of my key workouts for the week. I've got my intense ride today. Tomorrow morning, I've got my intense run, my workout at the track. Triathlon for me is, I have a fascination with endurance sports as it is, the mentality of it. I think people who do, especially ultra endurance events, it's really interesting the kind of self-motivation that comes with that. For me, I love the feeling of getting to a point in a race where you really have to push past a mental barrier. I mean, there are physical barriers throughout the whole race, but at some point, if you're really racing, you're going to want to stop. And I love the feeling of being able to push through that. I also think that the training for triathlon for me is interesting. I swim, I bike, I run, I go to the gym and I lift. Every day of the week is different. Every training session is different. So it keeps it new and fresh, despite the fact that I'm doing 12 to 14 hours a week of training. It's currently 6 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday. Which means it's time for a track workout. The university opens up the track on Wednesday morning, so we've got Charlottesville Track Club out here running laps, and we'll be doing I lead a business school workout for some people. We'll be doing something like 6 to 8 by 800 meters. So Ironman is a fantastic organization. They run a range of different triathlons all over the world, and the reason I like to compete at Ironman races is just the sense of occasion surrounding every Ironman race. They're always big races in fabulous places with tons of amazing volunteers, lots of dedicated athletes. It just brings this whole sense of energy to the weekend. And when you've put in that many hours of training to get ready for that race, it's nice to have that kind of energy and experience. One thing about triathlon is it is a sport that takes a lot of time. I mean, you'd have to train to be competitive in 3 disciplines at once rather than just one. So normally I'm doing 12 to 13 hours a week, most weeks. And something I've really noticed this season in my 3rd year is my ability to recover is just way better than it's ever been. But that's the kind of thing that you only get from that consistency, from doing it over and over again. And something that I tell people, if you want to get into any kind of endurance sport, you don't need to do hundreds of hours immediately. You just need to be consistent. I don't train alone. A lot of my training is done with groups. It's a way to keep yourself motivated. I think that's one of the things I've learned over time, is that motivation is something you can manufacture. So I train with the university cycling team here. Very competitive. They usually leave me behind, but I do my best to keep up as long as I can. I train with local running groups, like, there's a club for running at the business school. I have friends, specific friends who I go out and train with, like my friend Ryan, who I go running with him a lot. People to push me as well, although certain days Ryan pushes me a bit quicker than I want to go. But definitely it's an individual sport. You can do it as part of a group, as part of a team, even a team you create yourself. And that's one of the things that makes it really enjoyable. If I could say one thing to my nana and granddad, that, we love them and always will do, and very proud to have had them as my grandparents, and I'm looking forward to coming home.